Hello, everybody. How are you all doing out there? This is Robert Price coming to you live here on Thursday. And we are, it's an exciting week. It is the Players, which is a fantastic venue, a great, absolutely great golf course. So I'm excited today to actually talk a little bit about goals, specifically how do we change them, when do we change them, how often do we need to change them, specifically for our golfers, and if there are some golfers out there watching as well, how often you need to be thinking about changing the goals that you actually have. And so I think that it is imperative that we begin and start thinking about what our goals, why do we have them, why do they even exist, and there is a ton of information out there about goals and about why they're good for us and the importance of them. And so we get an opportunity today really just to kind of dig into that, to talk through why they're important, what they're for. But specifically, I wanted to use this evening to just spend about 20-30 minutes really just talking about and understanding why we should actually change goals. I had posted a poll question within the group. If you're not in that group on Facebook, you should absolutely hop in there. You can find it right there on Facebook at Elite Minds LLC on my page, and then ask to be requested to get into the group. So when should I adjust goals? That is really what we're going to be chatting about today. And so I'm waiting on some more folks to hop in as we getting ready to go live also on Instagram. So that has started now and on YouTube as well. So good to see everybody out there. So I'm excited about your participation this evening. Again, if you have questions while I am chatting and proposing some things to us as a group, please feel free to type those, to ask those. If you're in Facebook, you can absolutely just ask it right there. It'll show for me. Obviously, if you're on YouTube, to type that question in as for your comment. And same thing on Instagram. Just go ahead and put a comment in for any questions that you may or may not have. So, with further ado, let's talk a little bit about goals and why they exist and why they're so important. So this right here gives us just a quick reason, why we should have them. We should have them because it's going to help us with some consistent playing. We're going to have goals because actually it will increase our enjoyment. We're also going to have these goals because it just feels good to be great. I love that space. For me, I want people to understand that when we are trying to go from good to great, there are things that we need to do in order to do that. And one of them absolutely is creating goals. So, with that being said, we're going to spend a little bit of time, of just kind of wrapping our mind around this, and then talking about the when I should adjust the things that I need to adjust. So we will wrap and wrap into these things and why the importance of setting goals is there for us, and then we'll talk about when we should be adjusting and how often. So I get to just share a story. It's very quick, but when we're talking about goals and how we adjust them with the players that is happening right now, I think as I posted as well, just a picture about that 18th hole, and the players are going to play that hole today, and they've been playing it all day today. I haven't gone on and checked the stats for that particular hole of how it's actually playing. I have not done that yet today, but I will later on this evening do that because I'm very curious to see how they play or how they attack that hole. Really going to look at average driving distance on that hole. So are we hitting the big stick, or are we kind of laying back a little bit, maybe with the 3 wood or even a hybrid off that tee? there's opportunities to do it in different ways. It is a Pete Dye delusion, is what I call it, not an illusion. It's a delusion from Pete Dye to have you think that the right side of that hole is actually the play. It's a beautiful hole. It's designed literally for you to shape your ball toward the hazard, and so that makes it much more challenging. And so, really excited about talking about that. In that picture, it talked about goals, right? And so the idea of that is on that particular hole, we're not necessarily looking at getting birdie. I mean, we hit a great approach shot into that hole, 10, 5, 15 feet. It's amazing. Today, if you haven't watched it, the pin placement is actually in the back of the green, which actually makes it a little bit easier to get a birdie. That's actually a good miss, is behind the hole and to the right of that hole, having walked it as well. So, understanding what we have and what we're looking to accomplish out there speaks directly to this and to the goals that we're trying to accomplish. Um, so without further ado, I'm gonna throw a few slides in here today and just kind of help you guys just see exactly where I'm coming from. And when I'm working with athletes, this is what I have the opportunity to do. And so for those parents that are watching and listening, these are very similar to what your child would see and the conversation around them. So this particular one right here is what I want to spend a little energy on today. So it's, why are we even setting these goals, right? The goal is designed to provide some level of energy. It's designed to direct us. It is also created to sustain behavior because we're trying to ensure progress. And so on that Facebook post, there was three options that you had that you could have used to kind of provide an answer. And so one of those was absolutely an opportunity for you to just, you know, change them when you saw fit. Another one was for you to change them, maybe never. um, but there were the options. The options were, once they accomplished the goal, you could have chosen that. You could have chosen every 3 months. That's an answer that we'll actually explore. And or after each tournament. And so I actually outed a little bit of this answer that I'm going to be talking about today. And my own comment here was, I'm going to talk more about tweaking our goals, if you will, after each tournament. And I think that once we talk about this, and now with you having that definition available to you, you can start to see why I'm leaning toward after each tournament, not once the accomplishment, or even after every 3 months. I think each of these answers, whichever one you would choose, actually is a good answer, because we should address or change the goals that your junior golfer sets often, I believe, because they're out practicing and trying to establish themselves. And so I believe that ultimately there's going to be um, goals are going to be set and made often. One of the things that I enjoy doing is ensuring or making sure that when I am working with someone, that I'm actually addressing and talking through their goals very quickly. I mean, week to week, and oftentimes in between rounds as well while we're out playing. So there's different opportunities to be able to do that, to be able to walk through that process with them. Because I think if we're tracking the way that we should, then we're going to start to be able to actually change or tweak these goals very, very often. So further ado, this is what we're talking about. So when should you actually adjust the goals? Well, if our answer to why we even set them is to deliberately energize ourselves, to direct our behavior, sustain the behavior to ensure progress, then now you can start to see that the answer should be often. I mean, almost after each round. And I'll give you an example of that too as well. So when we think about this, I'm going to interlay this a little bit bigger. When we think about this, What we know is this, is that if there is a particular goal for a particular tournament or round that a junior golfer has set, whether it's approach yardage, or distance to the hole, or fairways, or even very simple greens and regulation, um, club selection, no doubles, three putts, par five scoring, whatever it is that you decided to set for goals. Those things are designed to energize that player, to direct their behavior, to sustain it over the course of that particular tournament. So after that tournament, it then makes sense for us to actually look at the goals and whether or not we accomplish them or not. Did we actually accomplish the things that we set out to accomplish? If we did or didn't, then now we have an opportunity to make an adjustment. We absolutely can adjust the goals that we have for set for ourselves. And I'll give you, personal examples. I mean, right now my daughter is in the process of hitting more greens in regulation. And so we have some goals out there, and depending on the distances, sometimes we're looking or adjusting what those goals actually may look like. An unbelievable opportunity is for her to get to the big goal of 13 around. That's the big goal. It might not seem like a lot for some of you guys out there who are masterful at hitting them, but for her, man, getting 13 would be amazing. Right now, we're averaging 9. So we're averaging 9. That's what we now know. We want to get to 13. And so the goal per next event really is just going to be 10. We want to get 10. We're trying to do that. And then once we get 10, we adjust. So, how often should we be adjusting those goals? We should be adjusting those goals often. Even when we set big goals, right? That's important. But there are then small steps along the way that we should actually be having as goals, and whether or not we're accomplishing those small steps that are going to lead us to that bigger goal. For an example, a big goal might be to go play college golf. That is a big goal. It is down the road. However, there are steps along the way to accomplish that. Did I send out my emails? Did I send out my golf resume? Did I create new videos or highlights of the videos that I have? Have I followed up? Those are also goals that we can actually adjust daily if we need to, or weekly, or however often we need to. I think that when we set these goals and we start thinking about this, we have to make sure that we're pliable with our goals, that there are things regarding our goals that we need to be very open with, and allowing ourselves to make those adjustments, and teaching our junior golfers that it is absolutely okay to make those adjustments as well. So I left this up here for you to see because it's important. But the most important part of this really is for you to understand, like, hey, we have goals that we want to accomplish, and ultimately we should be adjusting them regularly, not waiting 3 months, not waiting until we actually accomplish it sometimes, because sometimes the goal might be a too big of a stretch, and we may or may not have the appropriate steps along the way that actually are goals as well. Those are those step goals that will allow us to really see, are we making headway on the bigger goal or the bigger vision. Um, so that is one of the things that I really want to make sure that we're really clear about um, on this evening. It's really important. So if you have any questions out there, please feel free to go ahead and ask those. I'm really excited to hear what you may have to offer, or ask. Um, Good to see my Instagram friends out there. I appreciate you guys hopping in and joining. And those of you who too are on YouTube and my Facebook group. If you have questions, please feel free to throw them in there, and I will be able to answer them. I'm sure I have a few here as well. And I get some emailed often as well too. So it's I will throw one of those in here that I received. So Okay. I have a question here that was emailed to me or texted to me. So I'll make sure that I respond to that as well. I'll read it out for everybody to see. Um, so that way you all can hear that. The Instagram fam doesn't get to see uh, those questions necessarily. All right. So the question here uh is this is great. It says, what is important about adjusting the goals when I have not accomplished it yet? Um this is a good question considering what we're actually chatting about today. So, well, there's two things to this one. So again, when we're looking at why we should adjust, or what's so important about adjusting that goal even though we haven't accomplished it yet, there's two things that this question makes me ask another and provide an answer. One is, if we haven't accomplished it yet, is it an appropriate goal or step goal for you at the moment? And or if it is, then we can keep it for however long, quote unquote, we may need it. But it also, we should also be asking ourselves, let's say, for example, I'm going to use the one that we often look at, that's important, and the one I just mentioned earlier too, which is greens and regulation. Super important. So there's a couple of things with regards to that, right? So are we missing the green, and where are we missing the green? So then we can actually look at, or make, if we need to make any adjustments, maybe some of our adjustments to that goal actually is that we're missing the goal, or we're missing the green in the right spot. So is it to the right, left, front, back, wherever that might be on that particular hole? And there's books that we can use and things that we can do to make sure that we're actually tracking this appropriately. So we want to be able to make sure that we are adjusting accordingly to you as the player, to you as the person watching and checking in with that player. So it can be a little complicated sometimes, but it doesn't have to be. It can be fairly simple with regards to understanding, like, hey, what we know is this: if that missing, if greens in regulation is our goal, and we want to hit 9 every round, awesome. Or if we want to change that, or we want to now look at, hey, maybe we should adjust and actually also be looking at where are we missing. I think that's another way for us to actually have the right step goals. Those are the small goals, those micro goals. So that way we know that we can actually see, are we on the road toward accomplishing the bigger goal that we may or may not need to adjust at that particular moment. So hopefully that was super easy for you. And thanks for asking that question. If there's any others out there, please feel free. Don't be shy. Opportunity for you to ask your question. Just doing a little bit of a time check too. We have about 5 or so more minutes this evening, so that way you can get back to that uh, pre-taped players coverage. Awesome. Great question here. Anna has sent a question in. It says, how do you implement the goal for effective thoughts without it being overwhelming? Great question. So thanks, Anna, for that. I know that you also are speaking to what we talked about last week too. So great incorporation of two things. So for those Instagram folks, again, that question was, how do we implement the goal for effective thoughts without it being overwhelming? So one of the great things that we can do for that is we talk, there's different terminology around this, but a mental scorecard sometimes is a thing that we use. I use that, and we create it. There's some templates, but there's a pretty unique way to do that for each individual player. And for those of you who may or may not be 100% aware of effective thoughts, is, they have to be positive, they not necessarily positive, but they have to be productive. And we talked last week about whether or not they should be positive or negative, but the reality is we need to make sure that they're effective so that they are producing the things that we need them to produce. So that means that they're laced with a sense of possibility. They are productive and purposeful. And those three P's there are helpful for folks when they're doing effective thinking. So I think to help with this one is I sometimes break things down very and we do it with golf a lot. So I would say, are we setting this particular goal for just 6 holes? Let's just do a 6 hole goal, especially in a tournament, and let's just kind of track it for 6 holes. And sometimes it's an opportunity then for them to reset, so that way it does not become, like you mentioned, overwhelming for them in the long haul. So I like to do that a lot with golf. I mean, we could do 3 rounds of 6 holes, essentially six, six, and six. It adds up to the 18. Where now we're just tracking the thoughts for the 6 holes and maybe doing a little bit of a mental scorecard with that. Are we actually thinking X, Y, or Z, or what are those productive, purposeful um, thoughts that we should be thinking literally in our scorecard or in our book, literally writing those thoughts down that we want to have, that we've already pre-scripted, and just kind of going through it, doing a little tick mark, for each hole for up to 6, and then kind of giving ourselves the opportunity to reset, so that way um, it does not, as you mentioned, Anna, become overwhelming. Meaning, I think part of what you're maybe asking as well is like over 18 holes or 36 holes or 54 holes. If we don't, and this is why I think adjusting is a good thing to do often, is you then can really look and see, and then the player themselves can actually begin adjusting mid round. They just do a 6 hole look, and they're able to kind of process that a little bit for themselves and then move on from there. So I think if we do that in that way, then we can start to see, kind of take again those smaller chunks and then kind of grow. Now we have 6 holes. Now let's look at what we're doing over 12 holes or 18 holes, but we actually can do that throughout the round, just kind of 3 6 hole sets, if you will, of are we being effective with our thinking? Fantastic question. Thank you for asking that as well. Awesome. Okay. So for those of you who are new joining in here in this moment still, just be mindful that you can hop into this Facebook group that I have. Again, it's at Elite Minds LLC, hopping in there. Um, and you have an opportunity to kind of learn and grow within this group, and this is where you can kind of get some information just to kind of help process through what this mental space looks like, and kind of get a taste of mental performance coaching as well, specifically for those parents out there that are looking to hop in there, and those that are in the group. I mean, our group is growing daily, which is an amazing thing. We have quite a few members. We had quite a few members join this week. So they will begin processing and getting some of this information. The live streams themselves actually go only inside of the group. So you have to be a member of the group to watch the reruns, if you will, of these live streams. And that's where they hold and are hosted. For my Instagram fans, what you will be able to see is here on the gram. If you DM me, you can always get a copy of these things. So, um, but please let me know. I would love for you to hop right on in that group, so that way you can actually get a little bit more access and some questions as well. And if you are in the group and you're hearing this for the first time, um, please, 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 there's great content in there for you, and I really want you to kind of just take advantage of some of the questions that are being asked on those polls, and any content that's given. And I'm looking, as I shared on there as well, just to kind of shout him out one more time, Michael Bursine. He is part of Underpar Consulting. He had an intriguing post that I reposted within the group. Provided a bit of response to that, and Jill, thanks again for commenting on that, because I think it's so important to kind of understand. And he wants to be a guest as well on this live, so I'll have him on here and we can kind of chop it up a bit and talk a little bit about what he does, which is fantastic work if you're looking to kind of help with your recruiting phase for your kids out there. So with that being said, I love being on and kind of giving folks an opportunity to hear some of the things that I get a chance to work with, and there's some awesome opportunities happening out there with regards to the players. So I am too going to go take a take a watch as well. So I am excited about kind of catching the rerun as myself, and I'm going to go ahead and make that happen. So with that being said, I really appreciate you guys hopping in here and joining me, especially my Instagram folks. I know that you guys are out there hanging in there. It is a pleasure to see you guys out there. So if you're watching a little golf this weekend, please pay attention to that 18th hole. I know 17 is obviously is famous, but 18 is a challenge off the tee. Again, Pete Dye has done a great job with that particular hole to get players to actually play toward the hazard. Essentially, I mean, the shot shape has to be toward the hazard. It's a beautiful thing. It's definitely a test of mental fortitude to make sure that you actually have a game plan that you are willing to attack in that way. So, again, I look forward to you guys hanging in there and just continue to hop into that group and provide comments and feedback in there. Again, Robert Price, owner of Elite Minds. Really look forward to you all continuing to learn and grow with me. Take care and have a great evening.